The cold silence of deep space enveloped the massive starship, its quantum-cloaked hull blending seamlessly with the cosmic darkness. Inside the command center, Captain Hoon Park stood motionless, his eyes fixed on the holographic displays that mapped thousands of suspended vessels. Each ship represented a fragment of humanity's last hope, a secret preserved for 2 centuries. Yuna, the ship's advanced artificial intelligence, broke the silence with her calm, measured voice. "Captain, all systems are functioning at optimal levels." Her projection flickered slightly, a ghost of technological precision watching over the dormant fleet. The story of how they arrived here was etched in the memories of the few remaining crew members. Decades ago, humanity had fought a desperate war against the Zalarian Collective, a conflict that seemed destined to erase their entire species from existence. But Hoon's predecessors had devised a plan so audacious, so impossible, that it bordered on madness. Entire fleets were hidden. Millions of soldiers were placed in advanced cryogenic suspension. Quantum cloaking technology masked their presence from every known scanning method in the galaxy. It was a last resort strategy, a whisper of survival against the thunderous roar of impending extinction. Hoon walked slowly across the bridge, his fingers tracing the worn control panels. Each surface told a story of preparation, of hope maintained through impossible circumstances. The ship's environmental systems hummed quietly, maintaining perfect conditions for the sleeping crew. Beyond the ship's protective shields, the universe continued its indifferent dance. Distant stars flickered, unaware of the sleeping giants that waited in the darkness. Hoon remembered the stories passed down through generations, tales of Earth's final days, of the desperate plan to preserve humanity's essence. A soft beep interrupted his thoughts. Yuna's holographic form shifted, displaying a series of complex data streams. "Anomalous galactic activity detected," she reported. Her voice carried a hint of something almost like anticipation. Hoon's hand moved instinctively to a small communication device. It was an old-fashioned piece of technology, a relic that connected him to the heart of the hidden fleet. Millions of soldiers slept in perfect suspension, their bodies preserved by technology that seemed more like magic than science. The ship's memory banks contained the entire history of humanity's last stand. Detailed records of the war, strategic, reports, personal logs, all preserved in quantum storage that could survive for centuries. It was more than just a fleet. It was a time capsule of human existence. Outside, the universe continued its silent expansion. Galaxies spiraled, stars were born and died, and here in this forgotten corner of space humanity waited with a patience that defied comprehension, waited with a purpose that burned brighter than 1,000 suns. Yuna's systems continued to monitor. Every microsecond brought new data, new possibilities. The quantum-cloaked fleet remained invisible, a ghost waiting to be awakened. Hoon understood their mission was more than survival. It was a promise to return, to fight, to protect what remained of their species. His fingers brushed against a worn photograph, a picture of Earth from centuries ago. Green landscapes, blue oceans, a world long lost, but never forgotten. This was why they waited. This was why they preserved themselves against all odds. The cryopods hummed softly, millions of dreams suspended in perfect harmony. Soldiers, scientists, engineers, an entire civilization waiting for the moment to reclaim their place in the universe. They were not just survivors, they were humanity's last hope. Hoon Park looked out into the darkness, his reflection ghosting over the infinite expanse of space. Something was coming, something that would test the limits of their preparation, their technology, their very existence. The hidden human fleet waited, silent, patient, unbreakable. The first signs came quietly, almost unnoticed. Distant sensor networks began picking up strange energy signatures at the edges of known space. Something was moving, something that didn't follow any known pattern of galactic movement. Jay Choi watched the initial reports with growing concern. His fingers moved quickly across holographic displays, analyzing data that seemed to defy conventional understanding. The Void Swarm wasn't just another invasion force, it was something entirely different. Reports began streaming in from multiple star systems. Entire planetary civilizations were going dark. Not destroyed, not conquered, simply erased. It was as if something was consuming entire worlds, leaving nothing but empty space and faint radiation signatures that made no sense to any known scientific understanding. The Krelthari communication networks buzzed with panic. Their most advanced, long-range sensors showed entire star clusters simply disappearing. No debris, no remnants. Just absolute complete emptiness where millions of lives had existed moments before. On a small research station near the Andromeda border, a team of scientists watched in horror as their long-range telescopes captured something unprecedented. The Void Swarm moved like a living liquid, consuming space itself. It wasn't a fleet. It wasn't an invasion. It was something that defied every known concept of warfare or biological existence. Hoon Park reviewed the incoming data with a cold, calculated precision. Yuna's AI systems worked overtime, processing information that seemed to challenge the very laws of physics. Each report painted a more terrifying picture of the approaching threat. The biomechanical nature of the Void Swarm was what made it truly horrifying. They weren't just destroying worlds, they were absorbing them. Technological systems, biological, organisms, entire planetary ecosystems, all were converted into something alien and incomprehensible. Diplomatic channels across the galaxy began to collapse. The Sonorian Confederacy, once the most advanced communication network in known space, went silent. Their last transmission spoke of something that consumed not just matter, but the very concept of existence. Jay's hands trembled slightly as he compiled the reports. Millions of lives were being erased with each passing moment. Entire civilizations that had existed for thousands of years were being reduced to nothing more than scattered memories. The approach of the Void Swarm was methodical, precise. There was an intelligence behind the destruction that suggested something more than random destruction. It was as if something was searching for something specific, consuming everything in its path with a purpose. Hoon understood what most others could not. This was not just an invasion. This was a systematic elimination of everything that existed. The Void Swarm wasn't conquering. It was consuming the very fabric of galactic existence. Communication networks began to break down. Panic spread faster than information. Some civilizations prepared for battle. Others simply retreated into whatever safe zones they could find. But nowhere seemed truly safe. Yuna's systems began to predict potential survival scenarios. The calculations were grim. Less than 0.03% of known civilizations would survive a full encounter with the Void Swarm. It wasn't just a threat, it was a potential end to all known existence. In the hidden fleet, millions of cryogenically preserved soldiers waited, unaware, suspended between existence and non-existence. Their entire purpose, their entire reason for being, was about to be tested in ways no one could have predicted. The universe held its breath. Something was coming, something that would change everything forever. The Void Swarm approached. Silent, relentless, consuming everything in its path. And humanity's hidden fleet remained the only unknown variable in an equation of total destruction. Hoon Park looked at the incoming data one last time. His finger hovered over the activation switch that would awaken millions of sleeping soldiers. The moment of decision was approaching. The first cryopod hissed open with a sound that echoed, like a whisper of hope. Soldier Minki's eyes flickered open, his enhanced neural systems coming online with perfect precision. Around him, thousands of identical pods began to activate, a symphony of mechanical awakening. Hoon Park watched the revival sequence with calculated intensity. Years of preparation were about to be tested. Each soldier represented more than just a fighting unit. They were humanity's last hope, genetically enhanced and technologically advanced beyond any previous military force. Yuna's voice cut through. The awakening chamber. Revival sequence at 73.6% completion. All initial health checks are optimal. Her holographic form flickered between the rows of awakening soldiers, monitoring every microscopic detail of their reanimation. The soldiers moved with an unnatural grace. Their bodies, preserved for centuries, showed no signs of muscle degradation. Specialized nanobots in their bloodstream had maintained perfect physiological conditions during their long suspension. They were not just soldiers, they were living weapons. Jay Choi began uploading the latest galactic threat data directly into the soldiers' neural interfaces. Centuries of technological advancement meant information could be transferred instantaneously, giving each soldier a complete understanding of the current situation within milliseconds. The first communication networks between the awakened soldiers began to form. It was unlike any military communication ever seen, a perfect, instantaneous sharing of tactical information. They moved as one, thought as one, prepared as one. Outside the ship, space itself seemed to hold its breath. The hidden fleet remained quantum-cloaked, invisible to every known scanning technology. Thousands of ships waited, their weapon systems primed but silent. Min-Ki approached Captain Hoon, his movements fluid and precise. "Threat assessment complete," he reported. His voice carried the weight of centuries of preparation. The Void Swarm represents an extinction-level threat to all known civilizations. Yuna projected holographic maps of the galaxy, showing the rapidly expanding destruction caused by the Void Swarm. Red zones of total elimination spread like a cancer across star systems. The situation was dire, but not hopeless. The first tactical teams began preparing their equipment. Advanced weapons that looked more like works of art than military hardware hummed with potential energy. Quantum adaptive armor shifted and changed, preparing for unknown combat conditions. Who knew this was more than just a military operation? This was humanity's last chance to prove its existence, to show that they were not just survivors, but defenders of life itself. Centuries of hidden preparation had led to this moment. Communication interceptors began to scan the galaxy. Distress signals from dying civilizations painted a desperate picture. The Void Swarm was consuming everything in its path, leaving nothing but empty space and strange radiation signatures. "Stealth approach confirmed," Jay announced. His fingers danced across holographic control panels. "We will make first contact with minimal detection risk." Years of strategic planning were about to be put to the ultimate test. The first scout ships detached from the main fleet. They moved like ghosts through space, advanced cloaking technology making them invisible to even the most sophisticated scanning systems. Their mission was simple: gather intelligence, identify weaknesses. Min-Ki looked at Captain Hoon, a silent understanding passing between them. They were no longer just soldiers. They were the last hope of countless civilizations that didn't even know they existed. The hidden human fleet prepared to reveal itself. Centuries of waiting. Generations of preparation. A promise made in humanity's darkest hour was about to be fulfilled. Space waited. The Void Swarm continued its relentless consumption, and the Ghost Fleet began to move. The first battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Human quantum adaptive weapons sliced through the Void Swarm's biomechanical formations with surgical precision. Where other civilizations saw impossible destruction, the human fleet saw a complex problem to be solved. Min-Ki led the first strike team, his enhanced neural systems processing combat scenarios faster than any known computer. The Void Swarm's initial attacks were brutal, consuming entire planetary defenses in moments. But the human technology was something entirely different. Quantum-entangled communication networks allowed the human fleet to move as a single organism. Each soldier, each ship became an extension of a greater strategic mind. Yuna's AI systems coordinated attacks with a complexity that seemed almost supernatural. The Krelthari observation platforms watched in stunned silence. Humans, a species they had believed extinct for centuries, were not just fighting. They were systematically dismantling the most advanced threat the galaxy had ever encountered. Hoon Park's voice cut through the communication channels. Primary objective, he announced, is containment and strategic elimination. Each word carried the weight of centuries of preparation, of a species pushed to the absolute limit of survival. Adaptive weapon systems transformed mid-battle. Where energy weapons failed, molecular disruptors succeeded. Where physical attacks proved ineffective, quantum interference patterns created gaps in the Void Swarm's defenses. Humanity fought with a flexibility that defied conventional warfare. J. Choi's strategic algorithms worked overtime. Every attack by the Void Swarm was immediately analyzed, countered, and turned into an opportunity. The human fleet didn't just defend, they learned, adapted, and attacked with unprecedented speed. The first major engagement lasted less than 37 minutes. When the quantum dust settled, entire sections of the Void Swarm had been completely eliminated. Not defeated, not pushed back, completely erased from existence. Alien civilizations began to receive fragmented transmissions, reports of a fleet that appeared from nowhere, a force that could fight the unbeatable enemy. Whispers of human survival began to spread faster than the Void Swarm's destruction. Min Ki's strike team discovered something unexpected. The Void Swarm wasn't just a weapon or an invasion force. It was searching for something. Each consumed world. Each destroyed civilization seemed part of a larger, more complex mission. They're hunting, Una calculated, her AI systems working through impossible amounts of data. But hunting for what? The question hung in the space between stars, a mystery waiting to be unraveled. The human fleet's technology was generations beyond anything in the known galaxy. Nano-adaptive armor that could reconfigure in milliseconds. Weapons that could attack across multiple dimensional planes. Communication systems that could predict enemy movements before they happened. Diplomatic channels began to open. Surviving, alien civilizations sent cautious messages. Who were these humans? Where did they come from? How were they able to do what no one else could? Hoon understood the larger picture. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about protecting life itself. The human fleet had become something more than a military force. They were the galaxy's unexpected guardians. The Void Swarm's attacks became more desperate, more focused. Something was changing in their approach, something that suggested they were now more than just a destructive force. They were becoming aware of a true threat. Strategic zones began to stabilize. Planetary systems that were moments away from complete destruction found themselves protected by invisible shields. Human technology created defensive networks that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Min Ki looked out at the battlefield. Centuries of suspended animation. Generations of preparation. All of it had led to this moment. Humanity was no longer just surviving. They were fighting back. The galaxy watched. The Void Swarm attacked, and the human ghost fleet stood its ground. Something fundamental was changing. The tide was turning. The final confrontation happened where no one expected. Deep in a region of space that most star charts considered empty, the human fleet faced the core of the Void Swarm's existence. Hoon Park stood on the bridge, his eyes reflecting the holographic displays that showed something beyond ordinary comprehension. The Void Swarm was more than just a threat. It was a complex system with a purpose nobody had yet understood. "We're not just fighting," Una announced, her AI systems processing millions of calculations per second. "We're solving a puzzle." Her voice carried a strange mixture of scientific precision and something almost like anticipation. Min Ki led the advanced reconnaissance teams. Their enhanced neural interfaces allowed them to process information at speeds that made previous technological achievements look primitive. Each soldier was more than a fighter. They were a living, breathing strategic computer. The discovery came suddenly. The Void Swarm wasn't an invasion force, it was a preservation system, an ancient mechanism designed to prevent something far more terrifying than destruction. They were protecting the galaxy from a threat so massive that complete elimination seemed the only solution. J. Choi's strategic algorithms began to decode the complex communication patterns. Layer after layer of information revealed a shocking truth. The Void Swarm was protecting something, hiding something, preventing something from emerging. Alien civilizations watched in complete astonishment. The humans were doing what no one thought possible. They were communicating with the seemingly incomprehensible enemy, not through weapons, but through understanding. Their guardians. Hoon realized, his voice quiet but filled with a profound understanding. Not destroyers. Guardians. The human fleet's technology proved to be the key. Quantum communication systems that could translate dimensional languages. Adaptive interfaces that could understand patterns beyond normal perception. Humanity's centuries of preparation had created something unique. Diplomatic channels exploded with information. The Krell-Thari, the Sonorian Confederacy, dozens of civilizations began to understand. The Void Swarm was protecting the galaxy from a threat so massive that complete elimination of potential hosts was their only strategy. Minke's team discovered the core truth. An ancient, multi-dimensional threat existed, something that could consume entire realities. The Void Swarm was a complex defense mechanism, eliminating potential pathways for this ultimate destruction. Yuna's systems began constructing a comprehensive defensive network, not just for humans, but for every surviving civilization. A shield that could prevent the ultimate threat from emerging. Humanity had become more than survivors, they were protectors. The final negotiations were complex, not with weapons but with understanding. Human technology proved to be the bridge between different dimensional communication systems. They could translate the impossible. Alien leaders gathered, watching in amazement as humans demonstrated a level of technological and strategic brilliance that redefined galactic survival. The human ghost fleet was no longer just a military force. They were diplomats of survival. "We are here to protect," Hoon transmitted across multiple communication bands. Those simple words carried the weight of centuries of preparation, of hope maintained through impossible circumstances. The Void Swarm's attacks began to change, no longer destructive, but protective. The human fleet worked alongside them, creating a comprehensive defensive network that spanned multiple star systems. Jay's strategic models showed something unprecedented. A new galactic coalition was forming, not through conquest, but through mutual understanding. Humanity had become the bridge between survival and destruction. Minke looked out at the stars. Centuries of waiting, generations of preparation, all of it had led to this moment. Humanity was no longer just a forgotten species. They were the guardians of hope. The galaxy transformed. The threat remained contained, and humanity stood at the center of a new understanding. They had done more than survive. They had saved everything.